Hey guys, this week I reached out to Bret Huth of the University of Cal, Berkeley, and my topic for him was to talk about the perception where being at a Big Five conference school and working in the Pac-12 as a strength and conditioning coach, the perception that strength and conditioning professionals get a lot of top-tier talent that just come in there and they hit the ground running and can just jump right in with the guys, and it's very easy to have them develop over the next 4 years. So I reached out to him, wanted to hear his take on that and what they do to implement the new guys and keep them up to pace with the older classmen as well. So he does a great job explaining everything, really from the time that they get there to the next course of their few years as they develop. So I want to thank Bret for doing this for me, and I know you guys are going to take a lot of info from him. I'm going to leave his info at the bottom. He's a great guy to talk to. He loves to talk shop with anybody, so when you get a chance, reach out to him. Thanks for watching this, and stay strong.
Hey y'all, Bret Huth, Associate Strength and Conditioning Coach at the University of California, Berkeley. And the reason I'm talking to you today is because John Norcott reached out to me in regards to us being a part of a Power 5 conference and the expectation that we receive a lot of young talent that can walk in the door and quote-unquote hit the ground running. And with that talent, what we exactly do with them early on. So the first thing I want to talk about is the perception that just because we are a Power 5 school, we have a lot of young talent that walks in that's physically ready for BCS level college football. And that said, we don't. We have some kids that walk in the door and technically and tactically have the skills and abilities needed to go out there and perform at a high level, but it's certainly not their highest level. As those guys become more and more physically prepared by allowing our strength and conditioning staff to have some more time with them, we will only improve their ability to perform at a higher level because of the physical qualities that they'll be able to produce, in addition to the technical and tactical soundness of their game. So with that said, we get our freshmen for 4 weeks prior to training camp, year in, year out. And in that 4 weeks, whether someone is expected to be a part of our travel squad or to be more so on the developmental side, regardless, those guys are going to come in and they're going to go through a learning process with us. And in that learning process, we are trying to teach our guys to move the way we want them to move. My boss is a Olympic weightlifting based strength and conditioning coach. His background is more so Gail Hatch based, but by no means is that the just of all that we do. It's just a big part of what we do. And the Olympic lifts are going to be a major piece of our rate of force development work. So with that said, in order for our guys to Olympic lift, they have to know how to hinge. If they can't hinge, they can't clean, period. If you expect your guys to just walk in on day one and walk up to a heavy barbell and tell them that the objective of the clean is to pick it up off the floor and put it on your shoulders, ready to break, I think you're setting your guys up for failure. Now, some other coaches might disagree with my thoughts there or maybe butthurt with that comment. That's fine. You should probably do what works for you, and we'll continue to do what works for us. And that's been a gradual progression of teaching our guys to move the way we want them to move. And so with that said, we spend a lot of time early on teaching the hinge, specifically teaching them a empty barbell or a PVC based RDL to drill that hinge pattern, and for that hinge to happen where it should happen, which is in the hips as opposed to the spine, or just creating space by bending the knees and actually turning it into a squat pattern. We'll drill that, and then we will specifically drill the squat. And with the squat, we will focus on the intangibles of a squat first, which are teaching them how to properly breathe and brace their torso, to maintain the 3 points of contact between heel, big toe, and little toe, to initiate the movement with the hips and break the ankles and allow the knees to track over the little toe, and to own a great postural position in the bottom without allowing the torso to break over. Those intangibles we have found best to be taught early on with the goblet squat. Some other coaches may use like a body weight box squat or just a body weight squat, etc., etc. This is what we found best to work for us. And with that being said, another big piece of what we do is helping our athletes figure out what their best squat position is. Part of that is the fact that all of our athletes that come in the door aren't built the same. From an anatomical standpoint, we have guys with longer limbs, longer torsos, shorter limbs, shorter torsos. So that's going to call for different squat widths, toe positions. When we get to back squatting, bar placement, and also what that bottom position looks like as far as the tracking of the knee. If it's a little bit more of a forward shin angle versus more of a vertical shin angle, or somewhere in between, we're always going to find the best position for our guys so that we can get the greatest output possible out of that specific movement. Because at no point in a game on Saturday does the ref blow the whistle and say, okay, have your best Olympic lifting base squat come out and squat to depth for extra points, or have your best power lifter wide stance vertical shin squatter come out and squat for extra points. That just doesn't happen. And everything we do in the weight room is those are general qualities that we're working on. Nothing is specific. Nothing specifically makes them better at blocking or hitting or even at sprinting. They have general qualities that carry over to producing more force, which could generally make an offensive lineman be a better blocker if they are taught how to hone that new power from a technical standpoint, or to hone that new power of being able to produce more force in the ground in their sprints and their jumps. But by no means does having a bigger squat mean blocking harder or sprinting faster. So we're looking for general overload, and we are looking for that overload to be something that happens over time. We've got these guys for 4 to 5 more years. We're not looking for the shortcut to give us great results in 4 weeks so we can show the football coaches how good we are at getting numbers, because more times than not, that road usually leads to a brick wall where those numbers don't grow anymore, because you can't load that movement pattern anymore unless you take a step back and fix it, or kids get hurt and they're in the training room opposed to on the field. So once we're comfortable with hinging and squatting our guys, we then move into teaching the O-lifts. Specifically, we'll start with the clean, and we've done so in the past using clean complexes, working from the top down. And what we're looking to do there, again, is build a sound movement pattern, and to be precise from a technical standpoint versus load early. This is something that we're going to progress for the entire fall with these guys in the developmental period, so that once we get into the next off-season training period, we have guys that can execute the lifts as expected, and then we can begin to load them. Stereotypically, what we've done, we teach the hook grip, we teach clean RDL, working to the power position, to above the knee, below the knee, transitioning above the knee, and being patient for the second pull into triple extension, and then the great rack position. Stereotypically, we are teaching our guys to catch in power. Times of the year, we'll teach them a true squat catch, and so they are prepared for a full clean if they ever find it necessary, that in order for them to stand up the load, that they are prepared to do it, opposed to it just coming out of nowhere. We'll prepare them for that at one point, but at this point in time, we're specifically looking for them to catch in the power position. Okay. Once we get to this point, it's pretty much, those 4 weeks are up, and we're in camp, and we're starting to figure out who's who of this freshman class, who's going to contribute on the field, who isn't, and we start breaking them off into travel and developmental groups. Our travel guys will lift on Sundays, which is more of a recovery-based lift. Some very low-level movements, again looking to elicit recovery on that day, following our highest of highs, which is game day. So the gist of the lift will be the Javork complex, followed by some low-level auxiliary work, and then Tuesday we'll lift those guys. That'll be our hardest practice day. So our second of in terms of highs of the week, with the only day being higher being Saturday, and we'll consolidate stressors. We'll hit our big clean and our big squat that day, and we use the clean as our primary means of RFD in season, and the squat is our primary means of strength overload for the lower body. That clean could be a clean pull for a guy that's banged up in season, or that back squat could be maybe a deadlift for someone who's banged up in season. Again, we're just looking for big motor unit recruitment and to treat these guys like football players, not weightlifters or powerlifters. So find what's best for that athlete at that time. So with the young guys involved in that lift, the one difference for them is that they will continue to work the same progression as our developmental guys for the clean. So at that point in time, they'll be working initially hang cleans from below the knee, then eventually position work clean, and then eventually on the last tier of the season, they'll begin to clean from the floor, as long as we are confident that they are proficient enough to do so. Wednesday we follow up with our third high of the week. So Saturday highest, Tuesday second, Wednesday third, and that day we pair up with a upper body lift that for the most part are exercises that those young freshmen have already been exposed to, one, but two, exercises that are more easily picked up opposed to the Olympic lifts and then squatting, hinging, deadlifting patterns. The developmental squad will lift Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. This follows a classic Gale Hatch split where Sundays and Thursdays we will Olympic lift and we will do upper body pulling. Tuesdays and Fridays we'll do power lift, so we'll squat and we'll bench, and then we'll disperse auxiliary work as needed amongst those 4 days. And essentially at this time, the Sunday, Thursday, we're continuing to progress the clean from the top down, where we start with from hang cleans from below the knee. We then progress to some 3 position work, power position below the knee and then in the floor. And then once we're confident, we then finally move that into a full clean. Now on that Sunday, we will follow up that bottom down approach with a clean deadlift to teach our guys their best individual position in the hole. Again, this is going to be very individualistic. When the diameter of a training plate was made years and years ago, no one took into consideration athletes that would be 5'6" versus athletes that would be 7 foot tall. So we're trying to put our guys in their best position to pull from the floor, and in order to maintain the necessary stiffness to put their trunk and their body in the positions to then transition into the second pull and to get out of the clean what we want to get out of it. And then we follow that up with a Thursday Olympic lifting training session with some clean pulls to, again, mirror what we looked for in the deadlift on Sunday, but then to continue to build the patience and the transition into the second pull. And then, as I said, Tuesday, Friday, they're based around the squat and the bench. This time of year for these guys, the program is a little bit more voluminous in nature than our stereotypical programming, in order to put a little more armor on these young cats and to physically develop them. So with that being said, our intraset volume and our frequencies in the squat and bench are a little bit more than usual, specifically on the bench. On the squat, one day we will specifically follow a triphasic look where we're getting some additional time under tension with some tempo eccentric yielding squats, following a 5-second metronome to depth. And yes, we are getting some great time under tension here to put armor on the kids, but to us, more importantly, what we're getting out of this is the specific stiffness in the trunk that the guys need to maintain all the way to the bottom position to then put force in the floor and maintain that position right back up. And then we will progress that into a isometric yielding look, where the kids are then holding a 3-second yielding isometric in the bottom position. Again, more time under tension, yes, but specifically what we think we get the most out of with that is that our kids are learning to brace their trunk and for the movement to happen by producing force in the floor, not to happen in their torso. And then our opposite squatting day becomes a little bit more of a higher volume day, because we'll back squat them and then we'll follow that with front squats to add some volume. So essentially that's kind of what we do here at Cal from a developmental standpoint for our freshmen coming in the door. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. My email address is bmhuth@berkeley.edu, and then I also do quite a bit on social media. You can reach out to me, Bret Huth on Facebook, and you know, I'm always more than open to talking some shop or just kind of picking your brain, you pick my brain, etc., etc. And then I also would, you know, love young strength coaches reaching out to me for input, and as you know, other strength coaches did for me in my upbringing. I know that's not an easy point in the I guess the ladder to success is being a strength and conditioning coach, and sometimes it's hard to find other strength coaches to reach out to. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than welcoming to have a conversation with you. And then John, thanks again for having me, and hopefully we can do this again sometime. All right.